Let's get this party started. Shout out to Michael Buffer. He does that right there. Let's go, baby. What's going on? 86 Boxing here. Another edition of Boxing History every night, baby. I wish I could do it every night, but it doesn't quite work that way. You know, sometimes schedules, things of that nature come about. But when we can bring it to you live, baby. Live. So I appreciate everyone in the mix here. You saw the title. You know who's involved, right? One of the premier fighters that the sport has seen on any fronts, of course. None other than the man himself, one Manassa Mauler, Jack Dempsey. That's going to be the subject of tonight right here, you know. The Manassa Mauler, Jack Dempsey. He's going to be who we are having conversations about. And I'm most certainly looking forward to it. So appreciate everyone being here, per usual. Shout out to Dan, the man in the mix here. You already knows the deal there. Cheers to you, brother Dan. Been a while. Hey, good to see you here in the mix. Dan mentions Jeffries, Dempsey, Lewis, Ali, Marciano, Foreman, the great six. Certainly, those are six greats right there, Dan. There's no question about it. Six of the premier heavyweights the sport has seen right there. No question about it. Hey, appreciate you being here, Dan. And as noted, I appreciate everyone who will be jumping into the mix. Appreciate you coming by. This is the first one for 2025, I guess you can say, where we're talking a little bit of history, or at least strategically focusing on the history aspect of boxing. And of course, we are, as mentioned, talking about Jack Dempsey, the Manassa Mauler. So very much looking forward to that. I mean, he is one of the heavyweights that rings bells across the sport. His name is one that we all know and will continue to remember. And there's never a shortage of discussion when it comes to Jack Dempsey. Salute to Rodolfo Rivera Jr. What's going on there, Fito? Appreciate you dropping by there, buddy. Be sure to check him out, folks. Shout out to Max Duran. Appreciate you there. Max Duran says, hello, how's it going? It's going well there, Max. Appreciate you being here, buddy. Dan and all send their regard there. So appreciate you all being here. Of course, everyone comes out, shows some love for one Jack Dempsey. Shout out to Boz Cobra, says, salute and greetings. Appreciate you there, Boz Cobra. Boz Cobra. Let's see if you can get that going, like the little thing in there. Oh, that's tough right there. But appreciate you there, Boz. Hey, we're talking a little bit of Jack Dempsey here, showing some love. So, hey, we could jump straight into it. Hey, for those that will be listening on a replay, you are appreciated as well. But love to have the discussions, no doubt about it. But what can we say about William Harrison Dempsey? What can we say about him that hasn't already been stated? There's so many things. I mean, there's a slew of stuff out there on him, but still, I feel not enough. There's a slew of it, but not enough. I mean, he is one of the, if not the most popular heavyweights at his peak in the sport of boxing. I mean, you couldn't go anywhere without knowing one Jack Dempsey. I mean, he was that popular, and this ran in a period where you had the likes of Babe Ruth, Red Grange as well being involved. But Jack Dempsey was probably the most iconic figure, certainly on the sports side, but maybe just in general in the world at his peak, because he meant that much to the sport of boxing, to entertainment, and all that goes on in the world at that particular time. Certainly those roaring 20s, which was a great period. Shout out to Christopher, the Irish Boxing and Adventure. Be sure to check him out, folks. Appreciate you, Christopher. Says, salute, bro. Hey, appreciate you there. Christopher always showing some great information, or sharing some great information there. Appreciate you for sure. Shout out to the Fighting Irish. We all know played a big role in the sport of boxing. We're going to have to do a show that speaks on that just in general, as a matter of fact. Some of that Irish boxing history right there, because it's big time. But we're talking William Harrison Dempsey. You know him. I have a few things that I put together for us to be able to show, just to kind of give you a feel for just how good this fighter was there. Start with this right here. So there you will see what was his record? 53-6-8. So 53 wins, 6 losses, 8 draws, 43 knockouts, folks. 43. He had 6 no decisions, 0 no contests. Amazing, right? The Manassa Mauler, Jack Dempsey. You know that name, Manassa Mauler. You know where it comes from? Manassa, Colorado. So that goes to show just how good of a fighter he was and where he's from, where he's representing right there. The Manassa Mauler, Jack Dempsey. Manassa, Colorado. That's where he got his start, I guess you can say, sort of in the boxing realm, or you could argue fighting realm, at least. He was a fighter first and foremost, right? So that, of course, led to prize fighting, which is what we know and what the sport of boxing is, of course. Dan says Dempsey was a certified badass. No doubt about it there. No doubt about it. I see you change your picture there, Boz Cobra. Gotcha. Good stuff. Dan says, where's Joe and Drunken Irishman? Yes. Hey, where are they? Coming through right there. Boz Cobra mentions Tyson's idol. Certainly, the first Mike Tyson, LOL, Jack. Certainly, he was an idol of Mike Tyson's. He's Sony Listen. He's Jack Dempsey. He's from their cloth. So what he meant, he was one bad mofo right there. And as Dan mentions, exactly, Tyson loves Dempsey. Yes, indeed. Tyson loves Jack Dempsey, but the Manassa Mauler, you heard the stories. He spent time out on his own, just, I guess you can say, exploring, doing what he had to do to make a buck. He was known as Kid Blackie there in some of his earlier days, especially his earlier fighting days, and that had to do with some of the mining that was associated with the area that he was from. And, you know, that stuff would get all over you, and you'd have a lot of black dust, etc., that was associated with you from being involved with mining. It was a particular thing there in Colorado that they mined for. It's one of those forms of, I don't know, crystal rocks or something like that. The name escapes me exactly what it is. But this particular area was known for mining, or Colorado in general, I guess you can say. But that's where the Kid Blackie. So when you hear that reference to Jack Dempsey, that is a legitimate reference. And that speaks to sort of that mining trade. You know, you had to do what you had to do to get money, get you a buck, to make a living. And hey, nothing, he was not afraid or shamed, or nothing escaped him, essentially. So that's where that came from with Jack Dempsey. Shout out to Bruce Gas, Boxing, Jazz, and more. Sends his regards right there. Says salute, brother. Salute there to you there, Bruce Gas, Boxing, Jazz, and more. Be sure to check him out, folks. Some great content that you can check out over there on Bruce's channel. Great trivia on boxing history. You know, we love boxing history over here. Bruce loves boxing history as well. That's why I appreciate it wholeheartedly there, Bruce. I got to come by. I missed some of those pretty solid trivias right there. I wish I could have been there, especially that Mexican boxing trivia one there, Bruce. But definitely going to try to catch the next one for sure. Dan, he was pretty dark complexion. Certainly out there in the sun as well. Jack Dempsey out there in the sun. No shame on that. No stranger to that for sure. He was out there mining, out there in the sun, hard work. You heard the stories, jumping from train to train, doing what he had to do in order to make a buck, make a dollar, as they say. And fighting was one of those things. And of course, some of this was illegal fighting. It wasn't sanctioned. It was just, hey, how can I get me this next quick dollar to get me to my next destination or where I'm headed, things of that nature. So think about that with a lot of those individuals from back in those times, those days. When you think about prize fighting, hey, it wasn't always sanctioned. You had to do what you had to do in those days for sure. More opportunity, I guess you can say, out there now, but boxing was a trade where you can make money both on the right side of the law and, I guess you can say, with eyes turned in some sense right there. There's a reason it gets some of the seedy background associated and tied to it that it does. Shout out to Paul Bright, fellow Marine out there. Semper Fi there to you. Paul says, what's going on, fellas? What's going on there with your Paul? Appreciate you there. Vice Cobra mentions indigenous. Certainly could be some elements of that. So Camilo Kawachi, salute to you there. Says, up there. Hey, salute to you there, Saul. Appreciate you dropping by. We're talking to little Jack Dempsey. Jack Dempsey, and he's one of the premier heavyweights in history. Again, 86 boxing here, another little boxing history discussion. He was Black Irish. I guess, hey, I hear you there, Dan. I hear you there. No doubt about it. The Irish, the fighting Irish. We love it. I got Doug Fisher coming on at 9. Oh, wow. Good stuff. I got to check out Doug Fisher there. I'll be by there, Bruce. Hey, I love old Dougie right there. He knows his boxing history for sure. He definitely knows his boxing history there, Bruce. So Doug Fisher coming on Bruce Gass's channel. Definitely got to be by there. But yeah, appreciate everyone dropping in. We're talking to little Jack Dempsey, as mentioned. Jack Dempsey, the Manassa Mauler. I mean, premier fighter. We talked about kind of he got that start. He would fight anywhere, anytime. He said, I can't sing and dance, but I can lick anyone in the house, or at least that's a quote that is associated with him. Kind of one of those. It could be fable, could be something he said. Okay, but it's out there. I can't sing and dance, but I can lick any man in the house. You know, John L. Sullivan being associated with him, that he can lick any SOB in the room right there. So that's where that came from. Saul says, what happened in the fight where Fireman Jim Flynn knocked him or KO'd him? I heard he was starving, and others say he was fouled. So that's a very interesting one there, Saul. One I was definitely going to speak about, but I've heard different stories there as well. So the starving, I guess that could be something associated with it. There's also some talk that maybe there was some sort of foul play involved in Fireman Jim Flynn getting the knockout. I've read that when it came to that, his brother stepped in the ring to stop the contest in order to avoid Dempsey being knocked out, something of that nature. I've read something to that tune as well right there. So there's still some sort of clouded, I guess you can say, history tied to that particular fight there. So now it's officially registered as a knockout for him, and we know Dempsey was able to essentially avenge that. But that being said, there's something associated with that particular knockout that draws a lot of attention, a lot of stories tied to it. I can't say what is definitively the correct thing. I mean, it was so long ago, and there's so many different stories associated with there, Saul. As you mentioned there, you even named a few yourself, that it makes it hard. But what I will say is it is an official win for Fireman Jim Flynn. And Fireman Jim Flynn, hey, tough, rugged fighter, excellent resume in there with a who's who of heavyweights from Dempsey to Sam Langford. And Fireman Jim Flynn, hey, sometimes he was stopped, sometimes he wasn't. He's just one of those tough, rugged guys who would fight anyone at any given time, had a mean streak in him. And maybe he just had Dempsey's number on that particular day. It's very interesting. So that one, you can look at it a number of different ways there. So what the real story is, I think there's still some questions there. But I do believe that the story I read of it being stopped because of the fact that they wanted to avoid Dempsey being officially knocked out. And I have read that he was officially knocked out. I've heard that, and there seems like some legitimacy to that since he was on the come up right there, and that's not a good look. So sometimes styles make fights there. So styles make fights. You know, he was in there with Willie Meehan, a guy who started, if I'm not mistaken, around the flyweight range and rose all the way up to heavyweight, taking on bigger guys. And it wasn't necessarily in a way that was, I would say, nutritionally gaining or nutritionally structured. He just kind of started to get fat and just rose up. And he seemed to give Dempsey a pretty hard time. He was able to defeat Dempsey. Dempsey drew with him a couple of times, and Dempsey was able to beat him. But that being said, he just struggled with the guy who started at flyweight, rose up in weight. So that's where those styles kind of come into play. But Dempsey, man, hell of a fighter though, for sure. Willie Meehan, that's a guy. I want to make a video on him, and I've talked about it before. But if you don't know the name Willie Meehan, look him up. He was in there with some pretty top level guys as well. And Dempsey, of course, being one of them, gave Dempsey plenty of problems, as mentioned, and this is Dempsey on his come up, so that's saying something for sure. Ali was part Irish too. Okay, Jack was as tough as they come. Indeed, there, Bruce, no doubt about it. Christopher, a lot of doves, dark hair, facial features like me. That's why they call Black Irish and his Germanic roots. Oh, yes, indeed, there, Christopher. Dempsey had it tough coming out from West, no connection, no doubt about it there. Dan, sort of one of the best things to happen for him, and you could argue worst things as well, but maybe that's on the later end. But the best thing was being able to get connected with Doc Kearns, because that's what really elevated him, and of course that in turn tied to being connected with Tex Rickard, who was the premier promoter during that period. Talking about the late 1900s, 1920s. The premier promoter was no doubt Doc Kearns, or Tex Rickard, rather. And Doc Kearns was the manager of Dempsey. Max Duran says, I use ChatGPT to rewrite boxing history. I rewrite rankings from real life, and I started off on December 25th, 1919. In our last fight, Jack Dempsey beat Harry Wills for the heavyweight title. Very interesting. Interesting right there. Interesting. That would have been a hell of a fight had it happened right there, Max Duran. It's possible for sure. I would have leaned Harry Wills, but certainly Dempsey was capable. So I think it was closer to 50-50 than what it may seem, or probably just closer to 50-50. So that's good right there, Max. I would like to know more about it. We have to have a chat on that right there, Max. That's pretty dope. Chris said a lot of Southern Irish have fair hair. That Scandinavian DNA. Gotcha there. Nordic. Gotcha. Yeah, Leprechaun Irish, as Conan O'Brien calls it there. Bod's cover. Gotcha. So, yeah, anyways, if I call it right, he avenged that loss in Flattened Gym. Certainly there, Saul. Yes, he was able to come back and do his thing. So that's why there's some clouded judgment surrounding that first fight. But it is an official win there for Fireman Jim Flynn. Just going back to that real quick there, Saul. So, yes, he was able to avenge that loss. And Dempsey, as mentioned, a hell of a fighter. No doubt about it. Let me see. Going through some of these comments. Dan mentioned he was pimping. You can imagine a Cinderella Man movie for most boxers grinding. Certainly. Furpo or Dempsey, Dan? I got you there, Boz. What do you think there? What amazes me about Dempsey, Saul says, is that in his peak, even past it, he made Tunney struggle and hug for his life, but the irregular Meehan, the fat boy, beat him like 2 times. Yes. That is correct right there. So isn't that crazy how Styles, I guess you can say, makes fights for sure. Paul Bright, Furpo knocked Dempsey cleaning out the ring. Indeed he did. Mr. Deco, greetings everyone. Mr. Deco 86. Appreciate you there, Mr. Deco 86. Thanks for dropping by there, buddy. Here talking a little Jack Dempsey. Let me get through some of these comments right here. Willie Meehan. Saul says, I heard that Meehan had tons of potential, but he preferred to eat like an Armageddon, like if Armageddon was in the door and didn't train regularly. Yes. So, hey, downfall of many, I guess you could say, or many not reaching their full potential, essentially. So, yeah, that's crazy, right? You think about him giving so many people problems and what it could have been. Maybe if he was at a legitimate weight that he needed to be at, or should have been at, things of that nature. So it's crazy when you really think about it. Cheers down who? Jack Dempsey is an inspiration, no doubt about it. Hey, one of my favorite fighters, bar none, across any weight division, class, or whatever, you name it. For sure, an inspiration without a doubt. And I've said it a million times, I believe, but seeing Jack Dempsey do what he did to Jess Willard, man, that right there was a thing of marvel for me in terms of looking at boxing history and the fact that we have that documented and you're able to just see how he was. Billy Miss, Boz Cobra mentions him. Certainly, Billy Miss, hell of a fighter right there. He was damn good. And hey, could have done even more if his career wasn't cut short, but he did a lot in his career for sure. But yeah, appreciate you there, Mr. Deco. Britton, was it, Jack? Dempsey Kate on the 12th. Yeah. Bill Britton, someone who got a shot at the world heavyweight title. Jack Dempsey beat him twice. They fought prior to Jack winning the title as well. Brennan, a guy, nice little tough, solid boxer all around. He'd be a solid contender, I think, in any era, which is kind of what he was in that era, just a solid contender. And he was a guy, who fought up in weight in terms of, he probably could have operated more at a lower weight, but he wasn't afraid to fight heavyweight. That was kind of the thing back in those times for sure. You were going to go up to where the money was. Saul says, Dan, me and knew it was better for him not to step up from 4-rounders. Oh, yes. You had some of those. Philadelphia Jack O'Brien fought a lot of 6-rounders, things of that nature. But, yes, you saw more 4-rounders at the top level, 4-rounders, 6-rounders, 8-rounders, 10-rounders back in those times. And, hey, I'm not against it, especially if you can get a fight made where the best are fighting the best. Think about that. Rodolfo, you would think Undisputed would have added Jack Dempsey to their game. Yeah, why not? Why not the great Jack Dempsey? But I'm sure they would have got the rating wrong there, Rodolfo. That's probably why. Maybe the right people weren't in the room when they were thinking about some of those legends to add to the game. It's interesting. Bruce Gass says, what do you think about Willard's story of the railroad spike he says Dempsey used against him? Yeah, I don't know there, Bruce. I can't subscribe to it fully. Now, Willard said what he said. In the same token, Doc Kearns, he said that he put plaster of Paris in Dempsey's raps or whatever it may be. But my thing is that came a time after the two of them were together and on good terms, and Doc Kearns was pretty bitter with Dempsey at that particular period in time, because I guess you can say their breakup or them no longer being associated with each other from a business standpoint wasn't necessarily in the best terms, or didn't end on the best terms, that is. So I don't know. When I look at the video there, Bruce, and you just see how Dempsey was able to operate, Willard came in likely not in the best of shape, probably not expecting Dempsey to go about it the way that he went about it. And Dempsey was ill intent on getting Willard out of there. He knew what was in front of him. Man of a big stature who was much bigger. Willard, tough as they come, which he showed in that contest. The fact that it went 3 full rounds is amazing in itself. But Dempsey, I think that on that particular day, we just got to see an amazing fighter who was probably as close to the prime of his career as you can get, or right, just getting there, just peaking. And when they use the analogy of this particular day, he could beat any heavyweight in the world. I think that was that version of Dempsey we saw on that day there with Willard out in the open air arena, that term used when you're out there, no top cover, open air arena is just going down. You're just there fighting and the sun is beaming down. Dempsey, hey, he did what he had to do to pull through, and you could just see, because it's not like he just hit him with 1 or 2 lucky shots. Dempsey went about it. We got to see the Dempsey roll in full effect, landed with brutality, and just continued to land and just destroy Jess Willard. And then you think about the other rounds that went on. Even when Dempsey was likely getting tired, he still found a way to muster up shots to be able to take it to the larger Willard. And Willard couldn't change his game plan. He could not do anything with him. The speed was too much. That, by virtue of speed, offered some form of power and all that stuff. So for me, I don't know. Those stories are out there, and they will continue to be out there. But what I saw myself personally, and what we can say about Dempsey just from knowing that he was a guy who could carry his power, I think he just had Willard's number. And Willard, hey, he was stopped in other instances in his career. Luis Angel Firpo stopped Willard as well. So I think that Dempsey just had him. He just had his number. And on that day, Dempsey was not going to be stopped. That's what I'll continue to stick with and believe for sure. Saul says Billy Mitch was a beast. He deserves a movie. Fought and KO Brennan in 2 when he was literally dying from Crohn's disease. Yeah, Bright's, they call it Bright's disease, maybe the same thing. It's a liver disease, but yeah, you are correct there. It's amazing what he was able to accomplish. Man, Minnesota. From I believe he's from St. Paul as well, same as the Gibbons brothers. And man, if you think about Minnesota, particularly St. Paul, but Minnesota in general, they've had some great fighters there. They've had some great fighters, some who've really been some standouts in the sports. The Gibbons brothers, Misk, Fred Fulton, he used to be out there in Minnesota doing his thing. The Minnesota Plasterer. So Minnesota, they have some pretty good history as far as boxing legends and things of that nature. So Billy Misk, one worth mention, shot at the world heavyweight title. Misk, I want to do more on Billy Misk. He gave Fred Fulton tons of trouble as well. And Misk, he was not afraid to take on bigger guys, or he routinely did it. It was things he was accustomed to. Fred Fulton had trouble with Billy Misk. Fulton, being 6'5", 200 plus, that just gives you an idea of just how good Billy Misk was. Paul Bright says Willard definitely took a lot of punishment. He was a tough man. Yes, no doubt about it. You can't take that away from him. Jess Willard, one of the toughest boxers we have seen. The punishment he was able to sustain and take, he showed you. And in that Dempsey fight, what he came out of there with, from my understanding, broken jaw, multiple contusions, some ribs, I think, that were broken. Ah, man. And you just look at it, brutal. Vita Jax. I know of one from the 1930s. He had a short career. Vita Jax. What was that? I don't know him there, Boz. Hey, you put me on game there. Joshua. Hey, salute there. Cheers to you, Joshua. Be sure to check out Joshua, folks. Hey, great chatting with you as always, Joshua, my fellow Joshua right there. It says Jack Dempsey. We always have some good conversations. So be sure to check him out. Follow him. Subscribe, folks. Subscribe for sure. Boz Cobra died in World War II. I had to check him out there, Boz. I definitely had to check him out. Saul says, I think he beat the Great Greb too and KO'd Fulton. Oh yeah, Billy Misk. That is correct right there. That is correct. Gave Fulton all types of freaking trouble. But think about Harry Greb right there. It's amazing. Bruce Gass says Scrapbooks believes it. Hey, it may be the case there, Bruce. Hey, Scrapbooks, he knows his stuff there. No doubt about it, Bruce. No doubt about it. He knows his stuff. Hey, I don't know for certain. What I will say is Dempsey looked damn good on that day to me. But I wouldn't doubt Scrapbook. He knows his stuff for sure. So, could have been the case. Whether it can be officially proved, that's another thing. That's a tough one right there for sure. Dan says, very sus, Bruce, about the loaded gloves, a lot of money on the line and the injuries he endured. But George Benton said he didn't think so. Hey, Benton, hey, we know he's a hell of a fighter, knows some stuff. Joshua says it's false, and there are pics of the gloving of Jack Dempsey's glove, both on film and in pics. The film shows a pretty clear nothing was going on. Good stuff there, Joshua. Good stuff. Joshua mentions that. Hey, we all can probably look into this some more. If I find out some stuff, I'm going to try to pull some additional pics. And I'll be sure to share such myself there as well. Mr. Deco says, true, I have not been able to find accusations of tampering until sometime after the fight, as in years. Yeah, right there, Mr. Deco. I think Doc Kearns had something to do with that partially. And, of course, Willard mentioning such. But like I said, man, if you just look at the nature of the fight, we have it there on film. It's not like Willard was just a defensive wizard. I mean, he was basically getting bludgeoned to death via punches. So you could associate the injuries that are tied to him with the punches. I mean, he was literally just getting beat repeatedly. And of course, the ability or the rule of not having to retreat to the neutral corner just kind of added to it. So it seemed pretty obvious there. Joshua says, oh, yeah, and Dempsey would have really damaged his hands had he had railroad spikes. Yeah, certainly. I definitely don't think the railroad spikes thing, then you hear plaster of Paris. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, it's very interesting. Mr. Deco says, I think Dempsey caught it already afraid Willard because Dempsey was a dude back then. Certainly. And that took him to that mega star status, especially with film eventually coming out and being available of that. That's what took Dempsey over the top. he had taken the heavyweight ranks to a different level compared to what at least was out there on film, and certainly what had been transpiring mostly since the aftermath of John L. Sullivan's defeat. If you think about John L. Sullivan, like Dempsey, very offensive fighter, racked up a bunch of knockouts. Was a guy, you associated with that style of a champion. And then you look at it from there and why this sort of transition mattered. You look at how you went from Sullivan to Corbett, not quite the same right there. And he didn't fight as much. Fitzsimmons, of course, we know he was a fighter. He was a puncher, but he didn't fight as much as far as defending his title. And then, of course, we went to Jeffries. And then from Jeffries to Tommy Burns, who was a traveling fighter, certainly not of the stature, and it wasn't quite the same as a Dempsey or a Sullivan in terms of how he operated, even though he came with it. He came from lower weight, smallest champion in history. But then you went for him. Then, of course, Johnson, then Willard. Dempsey was the first since Sullivan who brought that level of intensity that we were accustomed to. Like I said, we know that Bob Fitzsimmons, hell of a fighter, hell of a puncher. But that being said, his heavyweight reign, of course, we didn't get to see exactly as much as the work Bob Fitzsimmons had put in, of course, there, because his heavyweight reign was kind of short-lived in some sense, and he didn't defend the title much. As a matter of fact, I'm trying to remember with Fitzsimmons, did he actually defend it successfully? I'm trying to remember, but you get what I'm saying, though. Just like a different thing. So Dempsey was a breath of fresh air in some sense. Yeah. So good stuff there. Joshua mentions also Willard was 37 years old and not fought in 2 years, and Dempsey was on fire, knocking out top contenders en route to Willard. That is true. During Jess Willard's reign as heavyweight champion, it was a 4-year reign, essentially around 4 years. He fought a draw with Frank Moran. That was it. And then he defended his title against Dempsey, and we saw what happened. So, truth to that right there. Mr. Deco said, Joshua, solid points, especially back then, as hard as life was. 2 years would be like 4 or 5 today. Certainly. Saul said, there were some unseen seconds of the Mix versus Dempsey 3 in recent documentary of Dempsey here on YouTube. Hope the entire fight comes out. Awesome. Hey, if you have that, Saul, share it. I'm going to look for it. I want to see that myself right there. I want to see that. Paul Bright, Dempsey was a savage. No doubt about it. Savage as they come. Mr. Deco, speaking of Gibbons, I got to meet either the grandson or grandnephew of Mike Gibbons, also named Mike Gibbons in Florida. Oh, wow. That's pretty interesting right there. I'm working on a video. Matter of fact, hopefully it'll come out here fairly soon. It's not going to be super long or whatever, but it's going to be Gibbons related in some sense right there. Just a little nod right there for those here. But that's pretty awesome right there. The great Mike Gibbons right there, Mr. Deco. That's awesome right there. That is super cool. Love being able to meet some family members from down the line, things of that nature that have ties to some of these great boxers. Mike Gibbons, even though he didn't win a world middleweight title, one of the premier middleweights the sport has seen, technically sound on so many different levels. I mentioned him. I have the Packy McFarland video that is on the channel. And, of course, there to tail end, he and Packy McFarland fought in what was sort of like a super fight at that particular time with these just two top-level boxers. Even though the fight in itself didn't live exactly up to the hype, it was still like a super fight for these two guys right here, two premier guys who were going at it right there. Mike Gibbons, man, one of the best. What do they call him? Is he the St. Paul Phantom? St. Paul Phantom, Mike Gibbons. Boz Cobra says, I think Misk is a German name. Interesting. I don't know that for sure, but that might be the case. Christopher said Dipsy had rocks and gloves. Funny, yeah, that would have been crazy, you know. Yeah, awesome, right, Dan? That is awesome. So yeah. Let me see here. Getting through some of these comments. Saul says, I've heard some fellas claiming to have seen Dempsey versus Gumbo Smith, Grab versus Tunney 1 and Mitch versus Fulton in deep websites. I'm planning to look for them. Hey, if you find those, let us know. That would be crazy right there. The only footage I've seen of Gunboat is that where he's in the car or whatever, or that truck or whatever, as he's riding around in the parade. We don't really have any fight footage of him. That would be crazy if we had that. If you find that, definitely let it be known there, Saul. And if you had a Greb versus Tunney footage, or if you had Greb versus Tunney footage, that's like gold around here, buddy. That is like absolute gold. And then to have Fred Fulton on footage actually in action, that would be insane right there. That's pretty crazy. I've heard stories of some sort of holding on to and stashing some videos, but the true validity of it, I don't know. But that would be amazing if you found that. If you do it, do us all a solid there, so bring it out. He says, I hope it's true because legend says the deep wells is dangerous. Remember me, fam. All right, I got you. Hey, we got you. Hey, we're rocking with you. We've already made a pact that if we can come across any Greb footage, hey, we're willing to do whatever it takes. We're willing to bail you out there. So do what you got to do, buddy. We're coming together. Trust me. Boz's Boxing checked in. Appreciate you. Hey, go subscribe to Boz's Boxing. We'll be doing another edition of Boxing Chat here as we continue forward. So be sure to check them out. Boz's Boxing. You can drop it in there, Boz. Dan said the great Ray Arcel said Dempsey on that day against Willard would have beaten any man in history. Hey, that's how he looked right there in that contest. He most certainly looked to be just damn near unstoppable on that day. The premier heavyweight in the world for sure. Joshua, no TV, no internet, but radio and the fight posters. He was pulling in those $1 million gates. LOL. Wonder with the tools of the day, how much more would his gates be? No doubt about it. I have a video out there on the channel. I forget what I've titled it now. Maybe Dempsey, how to make $1 million or something like that. But check it out. It talks about that $1 million gate. And he put the company RCA on the map, or in combination, because RCA, they got the rights to be able to broadcast that Dempsey versus Carpentier fight, which was the first $1 million gate. And it went to over 250,000, I want to say, different homes or whatever, which was crazy at the time. And of course, with the radio proceeds and all that stuff that was made from it, Dempsey and Carpentier pulled in insane amounts in the six figures, multiple six figures for both of these guys because of those RCA rights. And from there, it says it in the video. Check it out on the channel. It says it in the video, but radios at that time, you see the difference between the next couple of years as far as the amount of radio sales versus prior to that Dempsey versus Carpentier broadcast. Just shows you the power of the sport of boxing and why it has long been considered the premier sport. It's not gone anywhere. You know, they keep saying boxing's dead, but we're still out here, right? We're still talking about it. We can still talk about some of these great historic fighters. Paul Bright says, I've heard Lewis had something in his gloves in the second Smelling fight. Oh, I don't know about that right there, Paul. You just look at how he operated in there. He just did Smelling in. Smelling just wasn't ready for that version of Lewis on that particular day. Yeah, I don't think so. I've watched it in slow motion and all that stuff. And of course, I've just watched it. But hey, I wouldn't doubt that a rumor may be out there or something of that nature, but I don't know of it. I hadn't heard that myself personally there, Paul. But I wouldn't doubt that something like that was out there. But what I will say, hey, Joe Louis was 100% dialed in that particular fight. And you just look at those punches he was landing, crazy. Watch it in slow motion because it's only about a minute and a half or 2 minutes or something like that. And you'll just see just the ferocity on those punches that Lewis was landing. You'll understand why Smelling came out with the injuries he did. And shout out to Max Smelling, damn good fighter, man as well. Same thing as Tyson and Spinks. Spinks was scared of Mike. Oh, yes, certainly there. Certainly there. You can see it on his face for sure. Hey, might have been there, Chris. Alistair Overeem. Appreciate you there, Alistair. Welcome back right there. My man Alistair said Jack Johnson challenged Dempsey in the early 40s after Dempsey KO'd Cowboy Luttrell. No doubt. Hey, actually, I was just reading the article either yesterday or the day before. Jack Johnson challenged Jack Dempsey immediately after him being released from Leavenworth Penitentiary as well. So he was willing to take that fight. He wanted to make that fight right there. But whether or not it was kind of taken serious, I don't know though, because I don't think it was taken too serious because he was fresh out of living short at that time. So good point there, but good seeing you there, Alistair. Joshua, well, I think a prime Sullivan would beat Corbett. Same here. By account, Sullivan was pretty fast on his feet and fists, and by the time he fought Corbett, he was slow. No doubt about it. He was a shell of himself, I guess you could say there. Joshua, alcohol abuse, among other things, had sort of withered him away as far as the prime version of Sullivan, and he wasn't fully focused and dialed in on the training side. And there's a reason we didn't see him in an official contest thereafter, and I think it's a shame. It's unfortunate because I think at the time he was 32 or 34, one of the two, so between 32 and 34. I can't remember exactly, maybe 34. But that being said, he still could have had more years left in him, and we likely would have gotten him on film, but certainly it wasn't meant to be there. It wasn't meant to be there. Dan said, I think Speaks just looking for his 20 minutes, 20 mil with first 6 years. His knee was blown out and he wanted to retire. Hey, and he did there. He did there for sure. I think Jack Johnson bought that flare, but for some other reasons. Got you there, Joshua. Saul says Dempsey was a beast. I love Grab too, but some of his fangirls spit on Dempsey, champion legacy, but his run was very good. Brennan, Miss Gibbons, Furpo, and Tunney. No doubt about it there. So, yeah, we've had some back and forth on Dempsey and Harry Grab on the channel for sure. I would have liked to have seen it, and some think that Grab would have beat Dempsey. Maybe there's a potential that could have happened. I would have leaned towards Dempsey myself, but I respect and love what Grab brings to the table. But certainly Grab, very capable from all indications right there. But I get what you're saying there, Saul. But I'm rocking with Dempsey, man, especially you think about that 1919 period Dempsey. Woo. Grab would have to be on his P's and Q's for sure. Dan, Joshua John L. Sullivan was supreme, dominant for over a decade, and estimated he probably fought 500 fights. No doubt about it. I wish we had some of that stuff on film, just a little bit before his time. But certainly by the time he got to Corbett, he was a shop-worn fighter, and he had a lot of work put in over there, not to mention what he was doing outside of the ring right there. Sullivan was a pretty wild individual. You look at some of the stories with some of his disturbances, arrests, things of that nature. It's very interesting, very interesting. And Mr. Deco, hey, appreciate it. Yeah, coming soon. Alistair saying John should have fought George Godfrey. Most certainly, that would have been a good one. C.C. Smith, George Godfrey. Freaking Frank Slavin would have been a good one. I have a video out there on that. Freaking Peter Jackson, probably out of all of them, would have loved that Peter Jackson contest. But certainly when he got to Godfrey, that would have been a good, formidable version of both of them going at it. And I would have favored Sullivan over George Godfrey, actually. But I think it would have been a hell of a contest. Saul, this video, Jack Dempsey versus Luis Angel Firpo documentary, HD, by Fight Films guy. Okay, yeah, I've seen that one. I know he did one recently there. So good stuff there. So, the police raided in on that fight, Sadler, and Sullivan pretty much not competing in a color match after that. Yep, that is the case there, Joshua. As mentioned, and I love Sullivan, George Godfrey. Yeah, that would have been a hell of a fight to have seen. But yeah, police stopped that. As mentioned, I would have favored John L. Sullivan. Godfrey was top-notch as game as they come. I think that size and power of Sullivan would have came into the fold, but Godfrey would have been game right down to the end. But it was probably around 170-ish and cut just in tip-top shape. That is George Godfrey, but I think that size of Sullivan, and that girth, that power that Sullivan had might have been what got him the edge over Godfrey. Yes, certainly thereby. Yeah, it was a legitimate fight. It would have been a hell of a fight, and it should have happened, to be honest with you. But yeah, police stopped it. I heard rumors of them potentially facing each other again, and that not materializing. So it's crazy. Oh yes, let's make it happen. There, Alistair Old Chocolate. Yes, indeed, had two big fights. Set up the cops broke. It was illegal and very common at the time. And Old Chocolate, one of my favorites. They both fought out of Boston. Yes, indeed. Old Chocolate George Godfrey, cousin of, George Budge Byers. George Byers, hell of a fighter, colored middleweight champion and heavyweight champion, if I'm not mistaken. I have a video on him. Just can't remember for sure here if it was heavyweight champion. Certainly colored middleweight, but I think it was a colored heavyweight champion as well. Bruce, sub to Bob's Boxing. Hey, appreciate you there, Bruce. Yeah, check out Bob's Boxing. There was sparring film of Dumbo Smith prior to his fight with Carpentier, I think. Okay, good stuff, Salvo. I had to check that out because maybe I have seen it. I don't know. I don't think I have, but I know I've seen him in the car and stuff in the suit. But I'm gonna see if I've seen it. I know that I saw some sparring footage of someone and former colored heavyweight champion Bob Armstrong. I can't remember who he's going up against, but it was like sparring footage. Bob Armstrong. It's a little bit. You don't get to see a ton, but it's pretty crazy. And Armstrong was later more than tail. I don't know if he was still technically active at the time, but it's pretty crazy to see there. And I think Fight Film guys have it. Alistair said there are a couple of others as well. I would have looked them up again. I will have to look them up again. One guy was mixed and tried to convince Sullivan he was white. Sullivan agreed, then reneged when he discovered the rules. Interesting right there, Alistair. Interesting. You know, he did fight. I made a little video on it. He did fight. He's a Maori fighter, Herbert Slade. So you can technically say he crossed the color line in that contest. So yeah, that was Herbert Slade, and he handled Herbert Slade fairly easily at that particular time. Now Slade, I don't know that he came in the best shape. That being said, I don't know that he would have been able to beat Sullivan regardless of if he was in top shape or not. I think Sullivan would have just had his number, but Herbert Slade, and he trained and fought with Jim Mace, so he learned a lot. He was from down in New Zealand. Maori fighter. It was here in YouTube from a British channel, so it says, all right. Good stuff there. So we're going to definitely try and check that out. Sullivan, without a doubt, was a great fighter regardless. No doubt about it, Alistair. He was definitely a great fighter. That's one of the things. Regardless of what you think, he was in there with some top-level competition. There were certainly some that we didn't get to see, and Sullivan went on a hell of a run. And those he did fight against, he largely took them out, destroyed many of them. Varying levels, degrees and levels of experience and competition. That being said, you look at sort of his official fight record and all that stuff. Man, he had some pretty solid fighters. The recent video I did was one on Dominic McCaffrey, who he went up against. It's a very interesting one there as well. And this was Sullivan, and Sullivan probably wasn't in the best focus and shape that particular time, but certainly something to note for sure. So it's very interesting when you think about all of that. You think about these guys. Joshua, boxing not dead, just the face of the sport. There's not the face of sports as it once was. Yep. Usyk is a great fighter, but personality-wise, he is not Jack Dempsey or Lewis or Ali in nabbing the image of people. Yeah, certainly, and some of that, is, he's Ukrainian. English isn't his first language, even though he will work and he'll speak in English and all of that stuff. So I think that factors in somewhat as well. But certainly I like the fact that Usyk, he usually steps up. He'll fight anyone. We'll see him with Dubois in that second fight again. I think that'll be an interesting one for sure. Mr. Deco, great point. Every time we have had a technological jump, it seems that boxing gets a huge push. Dempsey, Lewis, Marciano, Ali, Tyson, and today's big dogs with streaming. Certainly, yeah, we're seeing some things happen for sure. Dave, you seem to know a lot about the bare knuckle days. Did Sullivan really duck Black Prince? The Peter Jackson fight could have happened right there. So certainly could have happened. But yeah, Dan knows his stuff there for sure. There was also a big ass rumor. I think there's even newspaper accounts of private fight Johnson versus Dempsey for rich heads. I've heard that as well. I can't say with certainty, but I've heard that. I've read some stuff associated with that, but it's still one for me that, I don't know with absolute certainty there. Dempsey, Johnson. Real quick, I made another little thing to share here because just to give you an idea of the guys that Dempsey fought, Look at this. Look at this. When you think about the best of we think about the best of what Dempsey was able to do there in the sport. Just look at some of these names right here he fought. It's just, man, it's insane, right? Insane. Just think about, let's look at that right there. Let me take this comment off. Okay, I had lost track there for a second. So look, Gene Tunney, he fought him twice. I'm just going to go over some of these real quick. Gene Tunney, World Heavyweight Championship. Of course, we know Dempsey lost. Dempsey was inactive somewhat in the midst of that, and it could have certainly been a little bit different. Maybe the years, maybe he had more if he had more activity and hadn't been out of the ring as much. That being said, no. George Carpentier, the $1 million fight, of course, or the first $1 million gate. We know how that went down right there. Carpentier, really a light heavyweight. He was stepping up there with Dempsey, and we saw what happened. Of course, Jess Willard, we spoke about. Luis Angel Firpo, who recently got into the World or International Boxing Hall of Fame. Big time puncher from Argentina right there. And of course, I think there were like 7 knockdowns in the first round between those two guys or something of that, and 11 in the total fight, something crazy of that nature. And of course, Dempsey was knocked out the ring. Fred Fulton, I have a video of Fred Fulton on the channel, one of the premier heavyweights during that period. Hey, he was derailed by the likes of Jack Dempsey and of course Harry Wills. But outside of that, Fred Fulton, hell of a resume, big time puncher and fighter. Someone I think you would enjoy looking to that. Tommy Gibbons, one of the great light heavyweights in history, also, of course, fought at heavyweight. That being said, premier boxer, brother of Mike Gibbons, who we were speaking of earlier, battling Levinsky, former world light heavyweight champion, big time fighter. He would fight up at heavyweight and all that stuff as well. But ideally associated with light heavyweight fireman Jim Flynn. We spoke of a little bit. Top notch, just competitor in the sport for sure. Arthur Pelkey. These are individuals Dempsey was in with. Arthur Pelkey, more so known for the contest with McCarthy, Luke McCarthy, or I forget McCarthy, the guy who ended up dying, who's one of the White Hopes. Arthur Pelkey defeated him and unfortunately died in that contest. I think it's Luke McCarthy. And he was a very promising fighter. Darren Dotson posted something about him on Facebook. Matter of fact, McCarthy, that is. Billy Mix, who we spoke of, excellent fighter right there, died of Bright's disease. Just think about that and what he was able to accomplish. Gunboat Smith, hey, he was tough and rugged. Heck of a resume, with a lot of top level guys right there. Sam Langford, Dempsey, you name it, Gunboat Smith. One of those guys, he would get defeated by the top level guys, but hey, one who has a name. I want to do a video on him. I actually had started writing one at one point, but I haven't gone back to it in a number of years now, I guess you can say. John Lester Johnson was able to beat Dempsey. He ended up being a TV actor or something of that nature, but he was more like heavyweight, kind of heavyweight-ish, I guess you can say, but pretty solid, decent fighter, a black fighter who had some success. Carl Morris out of that Milwaukee area. I can't remember if he was from Wisconsin or Minnesota, but I believe he was from Wisconsin. You will note him for fighting. He was a big dude. He fought Fred Fulton a few times. They had a pretty solid rivalry right there. And Carl Morris, big guy, mob ties as well. Porky Dan Flynn, tough, rugged fighter who fought bigger men. I don't know if there's relation to fireman Jim Flynn. I don't think so. But Porky Dan Flynn, a name out there. Of course, Jack Sharkey, former world heavyweight champion as well. Wanted to note him. Very good boxer right there. Jack Sharkey had some up and down performances. But that being said, pretty solid boxer just from an overall perspective. And, of course, world heavyweight champion. Willie Meehan, we spoke a little bit earlier. Bill Brennan, to name some that my man Jack Dempsey was in there with. So that said something right there. I just wanted to show that, just to give you an idea of some of those big name fights that he ended up having right there. Isn't that Isn't that crazy when you really think about it? So that's a lot of solid names just from overall standpoint. So Dempsey had a pretty decent resume from an overall. Joshua Mins, well, I will not read much into Black Prince. Sullivan was fastest best day, and I think any top contender, be it Corbett or Jackson, would take him. Yeah, you could argue that right there. I would have loved to have seen it, but certainly I would have favored Jackson. Whether that's the best of Sullivan, maybe not. Maybe it wouldn't have been right there because training would have played a significant role. But I think that, yeah, there would have been a lot of problems for Sullivan at that particular time, especially 1889, 90, 91, 92, when it was supposed to happen, somewhere around those time frames. So it didn't happen. That's right. Johnson was a felon to get a license. The irony, of course, being the sport was run by crooks. Yeah, insane right there, Alistair, insane. I would have wanted the Wills fight over Greb to come off. Certainly, Joshua, that would have been a hell of a fight, would have been filmed and would have been one we could go back to and see here today had it happened. Unfortunately, it didn't. This versus Greb would have been a mismatch. End of discussion there, says Vaz. Good stuff there, Vaz. Hey, maybe. Dan Alistair, the fighter became a gentleman, but criminally most when young. Yes, sir. Saul says it was a damn shame we got neither the Wills fight nor the Greb one. Yeah, it would have been a hell of a both of them would have been some pretty solid contests. One, you see how Greb operated in there with heavyweights, which, yeah, of course, he could do. He was able to beat Bill Brennan, Tommy Gibbons. Tommy Gibbons got him as well, but just think about that. Greb, man, hell of a fighter. I mean, the legend continues right there. And then, of course, Harry Wills, a premier heavyweight from that period, one of the great heavyweights the sport has seen. There's a video on the channel on the Black Printer, Harry Wills. Check it out. Learn a little bit something about him, if you don't know at least. Godfrey the Lean Mean Dempsey. Yes, sir. Who is the Samoan fought John L. Sullivan? You might be thinking of the Mari there, Dan. Herbert Slade. So, Boz, who you got there? The fight was on the table around 1920-22. If I call it right, Jack Kearns picked Gibbons instead of Greb, although the fight with Greb was an eliminator for the title that speaks volumes. That does right there, Saul. That does. Herbert Slade, that is. Slade was a great fighter, was considered colored at the time. Yes, fought Sullivan, Alistair. Yep, indeed there, Dan. The Gibbons fight was all wrong, though. No way a town like Shelby could host such a big event like that. It broke the city of Shelby. Indeed. Like I said, I'm working on a video right there. Hint. I'm working on a video. That's going to be a good one. Good stuff there, Joshua. Boz, as I said, Greb, great fighter, but too small. He wasn't really a guy who fought defensively, so Dempsey would have likely flattened him. Hey, Greb was battle-tested there, Boz. He was very much battle-tested. So it wouldn't have been I don't think it would have been a simple move to flatten a guy like Greb, but it would have been interesting for sure. The Slum King was his nick, but I don't remember remember him there. Okay, gotcha. Remember the name. Gotcha there. So broke Fulton's jaw. Yes, indeed. No way big names like Jack Dempsey and Jack Judson having a secret fight and it not making big news. It would be impossible to hide. I feel you there, Joshua. I feel you. Yeah, I'm not sure on it. Bill Brennan says, Boz, he KO'd Fulton in less than 10 seconds of the first round. Yeah, crazy to think about it. And there's a picture out there of Fulton there on the ground. That's, I think, the only thing we have from that contest. It would have been cool if we had at least 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 20 seconds. We didn't even need much. But if that's out there on the dark, well, no, I guess that one is the one on the dark web, but it'd be crazy to have something with them. That Dempsey versus Johnson in Canada was a what if article written by a guy who made others like Johnson versus Peter Jackson. As you already said, Johnson called Dempsey out from the 20s to the 40s. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't think Dempsey would have done it just regardless, maybe because Johnson, of course, was past it. And same with Sam Langford. I think Langford wanted to fight Dempsey, but Dempsey, I think, didn't want to fight him because he was pretty much past it at that particular time and had respect for Langford for sure. Sullivan could have fought Peter Jackson. He was over the hill and bloated for extreme alcohol, but still took Corbett 20 rounds to beat him. Yeah, that is true there. Battling Levitsky is another underrated all-time great. Certainly there, Saul battling Levitsky. Light heavyweight champion, had it for a period there. Crazy amount of fights, 200 plus fights, probably damn near close to 300, realistically somewhere in there, but 200 plus wins, if I'm not mistaken, there for battling Levinsky. Just showed you just the hell of a fighter he was. And Fulton was almost the same height as Willard. Yes, indeed. Fulton was a big guy. There's a video out there of Fulton and Dempsey together as at an older age. You just see how big Fulton is, how big his hands are. It's crazy when you just really boil it down. Paul says, I disagree. Boz Grant went 45-0 in 1919. It would have been a serious challenge for Dempsey. Oh, yes, I think he would have definitely. But would he have won? Hardly, says Boz. Hey, who knows? Jack Sharkey is the only guy to face both Dempsey and Lewis. Interesting. I never thought about that. Didn't know that, I guess. I never thought about it, but that's pretty interesting right there. Joshua, two of the best heavyweights in history right there. Jack Sharkey, man. Props to Jack Sharkey, man. He's solid. I met a guy who is tied to the family line of Jack Sharkey. Used to be a neighbor, as a matter of fact. So shout out to old Sharkey Waters there. And Canera. Yep, Canera. Yeah, he was a big guy too. Canera, huge. You know, I saw his fist at the International Boxing Hall of Fame. It's amazing. It's crazy. Smelling. Let's agree to disagree there, Boz. Yes, indeed. Hey, we get some of that in boxing. Fair enough for sure. Carpentier was great, but no heavyweight. Certainly, yeah. No doubt about it. Dempsey, hey, he was gonna stop him pretty much anytime he wanted to. Saul says, in my opinion, Greb could have beat Dempsey, but in a hell of a fight, and he could have been KO'd. According to Corbett, in the Walker fight, he claimed that Greb sidestepped, feinted, and had overall good defense. Yeah, I think that certainly could have factored in. I think it would have been probably an ugly fight as well, because Greb was not a guy it was easy to look good against. And that, I think, probably played into it with Dempsey in terms of fighting him as well, because, hey, he would have either won and not looked good or lost and still not look good, you know, because Greb was one of those type of fighters. So very interesting thinking about it there. So what I heard, he also blocked tons of punches with his elbows. I wouldn't doubt it right there. I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah, and he was very fast and he was kind of all over the place from all indications. He had good defense, but his style was aggressive. Yes, yeah, that definitely was something to that. He could fight inside and apparently can do some work on the outside. Alistar said, I think it's funny that Grant wanted Dempsey so bad, yet his last great rival, Tiger Flowers, declined to even spar with Dempsey. Yeah, it's interesting how that is. You know, and Flowers, he was stopped by some guy, so maybe that's why. And he probably saw it like, hold up, dealing with a guy like Dempsey, you know, who's going to be bigger, going to be hitting a lot harder. And like I said, Flowers had been stopped with the likes of Greb. You think about many times Greb's fought. I think he was only stopped like once, maybe twice, but I think it was only once. So he was like rare in that sense. But Flowers was stopped on a number of occasions. But another top-level fighter, top-level resume, and he had pretty solid defense. But, yeah, to be in there with a guy like Dempsey, hey, kind of understand it right there. That is a great resume. Thank you for listing notable fights. Yeah, no doubt, Mr. Deco. Yeah, it's crazy. Think about it. But Dempsey, hey, he sometimes doesn't get credit for some of the fights that he was in. But if you look at what I just showed there, what I just pulled up, and I pulled it up, I'll just pull it up once again, just for 30 seconds. Just look at that resume right there. Man, you can't tell me that Dempsey didn't have some pretty solid competition that he was up against. Look at that. A number of Hall of Famers right there. Gene Tunney, Hall of Famer, Carpentier, Willard, Firpo, Fulton could be one of these days, Gibbons, Levinsky, Misk, just Hall of Famers. Jack Sharkey, even though he was on there too. I don't know if I missed anyone too, but yeah, just crazy, right? Crazy, think about it. Then said Boz Zachary Brennan was killed by gangsters and then tried to shake him down. He was beaten by them with their guns, but chasing after them, not smart. Oh yeah, no, definitely. Had a nightclub. So Bill Britton had a nightclub. Interesting. Willis should have fought Godfrey. Or Will should have fought Godfrey. Oh, that would have been a hell of a matchup, you know, on paper. Two big guys going at it right there. That would be interesting. I guess that could have potentially happened in some sense. I'm trying to think about it. Godfrey, Will started his career before Godfrey, I'm sure. Might have been a sort of back end Wills against Godfrey, if I'm not mistaken, right? So this being the second Godfrey, George Godfrey, the Leaferville Shadow, big guy right there, about 6'4" or something like that, 6'4", 6'5", maybe 6'3", somewhere in between there, 250. That would have been a hell of a fight right there. I'm trying to think about timing wise and how to match up, or whether they would have matched up in similar time right there, Alstein. But that's interesting for sure. Christopher says, I say Dempsey goes through Greb. Yeah, potentially could have happened there, Christopher. Hey, like I said, I would have leaned my guy Dempsey there. But man, much respect for Greb. I understand Greb. As far as like the two greatest fighters, Sam Langford, Harry Greb, interchangeable, depending on the situation. As far as I'm concerned, 6, maybe 8. He would have hung in, but sooner or later Dempsey would have overpowered him. Hey, potentially could have happened there, Chris. Potentially could have happened. For sure. So that's what makes it interesting for sure. Battle tested, but not at heavyweight Greb. Oh, he was battle tested at heavyweight. Then you could argue, yeah, maybe the heavyweights weren't some of the biggest or more huge heavyweights, but he was battle tested at heavyweight. I told you, Brennan, Tommy Gibbons, who else? Even light heavyweight. He beat Tunney, even though it was that light heavyweight. Tunney went on to win the heavyweight title. So I think it was battle tested there, Boz. He was battle tested. You could argue, depends on heavyweight. He fought at heavyweight, let's just say that. But yeah, I'm with you. I think Dempsey would have gotten it, but I don't think it's clear cut as it may seem based on size. Saul says, I don't know where I saw it, but it was stated that Fulton versus Dempsey was filmed. Goddamn, so many gems lost till now. Yeah, it might have been. There's a clear-cut picture out there, with the two together, so it might have very well been. I can't remember if I saw any indication of such in the video I did on Fulton, but I wouldn't have doubted that it was, because it was filmed out, or it was outside. I know that, it was outside. I'm pretty sure it might have been, so I wouldn't doubt it whatsoever there. So, man, crazy. Unfortunately, we have no footage of Fulton, in action. So it's crazy. 5'8", how much did he weigh at most? Bod's boxing. Grab, yeah, he was 160s, 170s. Interesting, right? Joshua Langford was also blind, so it would not look good for Dempsey beating up on Sam. Certainly there, Joshua. Certainly. I think that factored into it. For sure. Dempsey was dealing with image problems in the early 1920s, so that Langford fight would not look good had Dempsey won. Hey, I agree with you there, Joshua. I think, he probably understood that right there for sure. But I definitely agree with you in that sense. Christopher, 86, what do you think would happen with Prime Dempsey and Prime 219 pounds Mike Tyson's? Yeah, very interesting, very interesting right there. It's like two legends going at it right there. I don't know. Yeah, very interesting contest. I would say it's hard to fathom, but Dempsey wouldn't be intimidated. I will say that Dempsey wouldn't be intimidated. I think, hey, depending on the day, you know what I'm saying? Depending on the day, Dempsey or Tyson marveled at Dempsey. I don't think Tyson would even entertain such, and he would say Dempsey himself right there. So, let Tyson's words speak for it. He would say Dempsey himself. I'm sure if you asked him, he marveled at Dempsey. So that would be interesting right there, Christopher, for sure. Dempsey with Kearns wasn't fighting a colored fighter, period. Remember, Uzkandun had dropped him in order to fight Wills, or had to drop him in order to fight Wills. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Kearns, I think, Kearns was a big reason Dempsey didn't fight Wills. Probably the majority of the reason. Tex Rickard didn't want to do it because of the Johnson versus Jeffries fight. That being said, Tex eventually came around. Kearns, I don't think wanted to do it, period. And I think some of that had to do with, of course, money and him not wanting any form of a blemish or anything that could disrupt the order in that sense. And it's interesting that Kearns would have a falling out with Dempsey But Kearns, I think he was about that money and strictly about the money for sure. But yeah, hey, I hear what you're saying there, Alistair. Because yeah, that's crazy to think about it. I know Dempsey put on some shows as a promoter. He had Uzkadoon on it. I like Uzkadoon, the Basque wood chopper. Yeah, and of course, I think that Wills was back in Wills when Uzkadoon beat Wills. Of course, Wills was not fighting as much then, and yeah, it's crazy. You see the footage. You think it's an elbow? You think that's an elbow in that Uzkadoon Wills fight? Do you all think there's an elbow landed? I looked at it in slow motion, all that stuff. You could argue, yeah, but you could also say, oh no, it's just kind of a part of the motion. I don't know. Canelo was a monster. Oh yes, he's a lot better than what it made meet the eye. Just think about it: Canelo versus Deontay Wilder. Who would you all take? Who's the better boxer between the two, technically speaking? Think about that. Lewis had crazy sides, fists as well. Yes, he did. I've seen his in there. They had casting of his as well. That's pretty crazy. So says, I love the Sharky fight with Dempsey. Ashamed that it went from a slugfest to a foul fest and they had some bad blood. Yeah, unfortunate ending right there. Hey, Dempsey took advantage and worked out for him right there. Sharky, hey, you got to stay on your P's and Q's at all times. You know what I'm saying? Protect yourself at all times, as they say. Now, the referee could have been ejected, maybe could have handled it differently, you think? But those were the times, a little bit different. Dempsey fought several black fighters early in his career. Indeed, there, Dan. Indeed. Joshua, yeah, there was a color bar, but I think Dempsey refused to fight Langford for other reasons outside of race. Yeah, I agree. I agree right there, Joshua. I think it's a respect thing there for sure. Then his main second sparring partner was Bill Tate. Big Bill Tate. Yeah, big dude right there. Another big guy from that period. 6'6", 200 plus. But yeah, Big Bill Tate. Yeah, he was a sparring partner of his. There's video. I have it on the channel. As a matter of fact, Bill Tate and Kid Norfolk, who Greb also fought. Light heavyweight great right there. In and around light heavyweight, but light heavyweight great right there. And you get to see Kid Norfolk, who's about 5'8", maybe, facing Big Bill Tate, who I mentioned is like 6'6", and he's basically leaping up to land his shots. And Big Bill Tate is grabbing him, tying him up every chance he gets. And it's crazy. It's crazy. But those guys didn't care back then. They would fight. Hey, I don't care about the size. I'm going to fight. You know what I'm saying? Now that I remember, did Dempsey duck Kid Norfolk? So, I don't know. Was that possible? I don't remember. Hey, shout out to my mom there. Appreciate you dropping by there, mother. Hey, keeping it going right there. Appreciate you dropping by. I don't know there in terms of Kid Norfolk. So, I had to look into it. I had to think about it. I don't know if I actually ran across that matchup and the potential of it being made. Now I think about it. Then Saul says, man, I love Kid Norfolk. I would love to see in a fight with Dempsey, two of my favorites. Oh, yeah. Certainly interesting. We know Norfolk would have been as game as they come right there. So, yeah, that would have been a very interesting one right there. I would have loved to have seen it. Again, I would have favored Dempsey, but Norfolk would have been game. Hey, and he would have gave Dempsey some trouble, I'd imagine. The validity or the seriousness or any discussions of them fighting, I would have to look into it. I don't know for certain there, Saul, so I'm going to have to look into that myself there. Fast guys, Gay Graham's more problem than the big guys like Soldier Bartfield. Yeah, hey, great fighter right there. Ton of competition, ton of fights as well. I want to dive more into Soldier Bartfield, but I know he was a top-level fighter for sure. So, yeah, man, that speaks to Greb's resume. You just think about some of the guys that Greb was in there with. I think, like, probably the most Hall of Famers, certainly in the running, but I think he is the guy that was in there with the most Hall of Famers. Think about Tommy Loughran. Just think about dealing with a guy like Tommy Loughran stylistically. He has a pleasant style to me, Tommy Loughran. Philly Phantom right there. Where he kept that left hand a little bit low, but man, pleasant style to watch right there. You think about Greb being able to compete and beat guys like Tommy Loughran, you know what I'm saying? You name it. Greb was a hell of a fighter. He's just a hell of a fighter in general. So Christopher Boz, I'd like to know exactly how it would go if Prime Dempsey and Prime Mike face off. Yeah, it'd be interesting. That reminds me on Box Rage, you can find the tale of a tape for Ron Lyle, Buster Mathis. Mathis was like a wrestler compared to Lyle. Big guy. Oh, yeah. Good stuff right there, Boz. Yeah, I can't give you that answer there, Christopher, but I know that Mike would probably say Jack there, Christopher. Mr. Decker, there's no way we would see that caliber of resume in today's game. Certainly. One, they don't fight enough. Two, yeah, I just don't think you would have that caliber. As you mentioned there, Mr. Deco, that Dempsey resume. And that's just some of the more notable names right there that people know of. And that wasn't all of them, but that's more of the notable names. I was only going to put some of the probably top names that people would know. But I was like, you know what? There's so many notable names. We need to show these right here. So, hey, those guys, man, they were fighting back then, man. They were fighting, and it was an amazing thing to see, for sure. Langford was too old and blind when he could have fought Dempsey. Different era. Langford much older than Dempsey. Certainly there, Dan. Certainly. Let me go through. Joshua said that would have put it would have been a past Prime Willis had he fought Godfrey in the 30s, 1929 or maybe 30. Yeah, certainly past Prime there, Joshua. Certainly. Dempsey went to George Godfrey's funeral. Gotcha there, Dan. Definitely irony. Salute, first time. Wow, this is awesome content. Hey, appreciate you there. Define irony. One. Hey, appreciate you. Thanks for dropping by there, buddy. Yeah, we are. Hey, we love boxing history, talking and discussing it for sure here on the channel. There, appreciate you dropping by, buddy. Define irony, bro. Yeah. Speaking of Spanish, Professor de Bacteo. I see you had that in your thing there, Puerto Rican guy, freaking youngest champion right there, right? Freaking dang it, why is his name escaping me right now? The youngest champion, 17 years old, freaking what's his freaking name? Oh, let me go here. Benitez, yes. Yeah, Benitez. Dang it. I'm like, what the heck? But yeah, freaking Benitez, man. Hell of a fighter right there. Fought in a tough era against the best. That's the thing. Hey, we need more of that. And I feel like we're getting some of that here. Certainly with Turkey being involved, getting some of the best, fighting the best right there. So salute to you there. Appreciate you dropping by, buddy. Joshua, we have Fulton talking with Dempsey in the 60s. Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of that I've seen right there, Joshua. And you see how big Fulton was compared to Dempsey even. And Dempsey about 6'1" himself, and Fulton, man, he's like, and this is them older, of course, big dude. Tyson might last 5 seconds, says Dan. I figured there, Dan. Tyson Dempsey would have been a barn brother as long as it lasted. Certainly. Benitez. Oh yeah, I'm going through it. Hey, I missed so many. Hey, I fall behind with these comments sometimes. It's so crazy. They come so fast. You got to understand, they come so freaking fast. Dempsey against any of the OG Black Murderers Road would have been damn bangers. Certainly, there's Saul, Lloyd Marshall, freaking. Who else was moving up there and wait or thinking about it? Up there, man. Think about him against freaking Archie Moore or freaking Edward Charles. Crazy. Polino Uskadoon. Uskadoon. Hey, beast right there, man. Polino. Oh yeah, I had asked a question. Did you think? Oh, let me see. Tyson versus Sammy Shaft. I know Ernie Shaft. Let me see here. I had asked the question of, do you think it was the elbow in that Uskadoon fight? Well, I think you linked the gloves to the video, so who knows what Tyson Dempsey yet. Tyson versus Dempsey would have been a war. I went to the new, wasn't really that good. I got you there, Dan. Dempsey Marciano fight under modern boxing rules, standing 8 count. Mr. Deco, I want to see that. That would have been a hell of a fight right there. Iron Will's going at it right there. We know that. The way that Marciano trained that forward aggression, refusing to back down, that would have been a hell of a fight right there, something would have to give, right? You would have to think at least. Saul says Dempsey against, the Black Murderers Row, yeah. Bolino. Dempsey versus Wills, McVeigh, Jeanette, or Langford. Yeah, right. Insane. Yeah, man. Imagine Sam McVeigh. I think you have a lot of just inside storming, those two just banging out. Joshua, if we had Marciano versus Dempsey on today's rules, it would take away from their strengths. Yeah, maybe. Define Irony says Primo Cadera, one of the greatest physiques ever, dude, look like a brick wall. Most certainly. I mean, huge. I mean, stacked. It's insane. And like I said, seeing his fish casting there at the International Boxing Hall of Fame, I think you have to realize how big this dude was. I think you need to see him just real time. He match up with like Anthony Joshua, big dude. You know what I'm saying? These are just like big guys. But you look at Primo, I mean, this dude was just stacked. You know what I'm saying? Just crazy. Sharky should not have been turning his head. Yeah, certainly there. Joshua Primo ate like a horse. He did. Primo is better than some people think too as well. So shout out to Primo Carnera. I may do a video on him. One of my favorites is Max Baer. We know what happened with him and Primo. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Max Baer as well. But Primo, better than you think right there. Like I said, who's the better boxer, Primo Carnera or Deontay Wilder? You tell me. Canelo was a freak, 280 pounds, muscle 6'7", not a great fighter. Yeah, maybe not the greatest, but better than what some may think. Canelo mauls Wilder against the ropes and stops, and later Wilder flips the lights out around round 4. Hey, could it go like that, Mr. Deco? Canelo, a wrestler to his 50s. Good stuff, Dan. The Dempsey Willard movie film had the sparring session with Tate and Dempsey with others. Oh, awesome. Oh, yeah, I was going to mention, this was a Jack Dempsey discussion, and there's this Dempsey movie on YouTube. I watched it. I guess it's like a biopic-like film that was made of Dempsey at some point. I don't even know what year, but it was a little bit older. It might have been 80s or something like that. And I watched it, and I thought it was not bad. Not bad. Not the best, but not bad. Not bad. You didn't really get a ton of the premier fighting stuff that we want to see in some of those movies. Define Irony, Canera versus Wilder. If that goes the distance, I'll change my name. All right, got you right there. I don't know that it does. It can't. But yeah, that Dempsey movie was good. Hey, another movie I watched here recently was matter of fact, I think it was last week, was Somebody Up There Likes Me, Rocky Graziano. I finally saw that. I thought it was pretty good. Hey, Rocky was a man. He was a very interesting individual there in terms of roughneck. Rocky Graziano was a roughneck as a youngster, but I had through the Raging Bull, Jake LaMotta, figured out that Graziano and Jake LaMotta were both in like the juvenile detention or whatever, or something like that together. But Rocky, man, he was a tough cookie there as a youngster. It seemed like he was hard to freaking control at times and just had a short temper. Tommy Lochran fought the Bevo, beautiful style, man. Yes, indeed. So, yes, indeed. Check out Alistair, a great fighter, impressive man. Glad to see you, Lean. Stay away from the meat. You could punch out this Usyk. Yeah, hey. Boxing scientist Lochran was. Yes, indeed. Boz, he was. Bro, another one with tons of potential and beautiful style was Jimmy Slattery. Gosh, he had some waist like Loche, Nicolina. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Jimmy Slattery. Hey, Buffalo, right? I think Jimmy Slattery from Buffalo, former light heavyweight champion. Yeah, very good boxer right there. I had mentioned this before, but I worked with someone who his last name was Slattery, and I asked him about him because I had received an email about Slattery's birthday from the Boxing Hall of Fame on the day I was at work. And he was like, he didn't know that there was a connection, but I was thinking to myself, I think there might be a connection. That Slattery, you just don't run across Slatteries like that. Now, he was from maybe the Northeast, but he wasn't from New York. But I'm like, there might be a connection there somewhere. We got ladies in the house tonight. Hey, you're funny there, Paul, right? And this is good. Yeah, hey, Jojo Rose. Hey, what's going on, Jojo? Hey, Cheers to you there, buddy. Appreciate you for sure. For sure. The fifth king right there. So yeah, Benitez. See, I told you I fall behind with some of the comments. I think Dempsey was listed as 6'1" there, boss. Chris says under 6 feet tall, less than 190 pounds. Yeah, he had to get that 1 inch. Yes, indeed. If not, I don't have Marciano losing to too many folks, maybe just me, but there's something about him, dude, was just special. Yes, very special fighter. You know, in the way I look at it, you know, people may bring up the competition or things of that nature, but he fought who he had available there to fight, and we saw what he was able to do. He was able to do his thing, and he was in there with some top-level competition. Ezra Charles, Archie Moore, Jersey Joe Walcott, freaking Joe Lewis. Hey, Marciano was a beast. Roland Lastarza. I got a video on Harry Half that's out there. He actually fought Harry Half. And that was pretty noble of him giving Harry Half a shot right there. Well, he didn't have a title at the time, but just giving Harry Half a big fight for sure there. But Rocky Marciano, one of the greats for sure there. No doubt about it. Christopher, Mike Tyson ranged from 5'10" to 6 foot. Yes, you definitely saw different variations. 5'10", 5'11", you name it. Primo was, by all accounts, a stand-up guy. Yeah, Bod, yes, indeed. Yeah, Max Bear visited him in the hospital and all that good stuff, you know. So Canary had more skills, but Wilder had that power. Joshua, okay, yeah, hey, true. Saul McVeigh versus Dempsey. Woo. According to Langford, he had a lethal, weird left hook that looked like a straight left. Yes, indeed. That would have been a crazy fight right there. Crazy fight. Had that happen, or had the ability to happen at least. It would have been insane. There's some footage, a little bit of footage out there, of course, of Sam McVeigh. You get to see him in there with battling Jim Johnson in a very small ring. I mean, that ring looks like it's about 6x6 or potentially even less. It's crazy, but worth checking out for sure. Certainly worth checking out there. Oh, let me see here. Primo easily better than Wilder in every way. I feel you there, Alistair. I feel you. Two most famous Italian fighters, Nino Benvenuti and Canera from Italy. Yeah, now that's where. Now where they're from is Slovenia. Oh, okay. So when it was still part of Italy, I guess, and now it's Slovenia. Yeah, the biopic in 1983. Dempsey just died and made a home movie about it. Oh, okay, gotcha. So, yes, I saw that right there, Joshua. I just recently saw that. I think it was like last week or the week before. And like I said, I thought it was not too bad overall. Ray Charles had such a movie after he died. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I seen that one. I don't know if it's the same one with Jamie. I seen the one with Jamie Foxx. Thought that was pretty good. Did a good job right there. Yeah, usually he said to be 5'11" and a half. That was a lie. Yeah, Boz, I got you there. Definitely 5'9" or 5'10". Gotcha. Saul says Graziano was wild. Yeah, man, crazy. Some of that stuff. I know it was a biopic. He was he was still active at the time, right? So I'm like, man, yeah, he's a wild dude. Mr. Deco says yes, the Graziano movie was great. Have you seen the Jack Johnson movie with James Earl Jones? I haven't seen the full thing. I had started watching it a couple of times, but I haven't got through it yet. I'm gonna watch it. I know they had the names different and all of that stuff. Great White Hope. I'm going to check it out. That's on the list for sure. But I have started to watch it. I just haven't gotten all the way through it as of yet. We're going to make some time to do that. But I know James Earl Jones did a good job right there. So I haven't even gotten to the part where he gets to the Jeffries fight and all that stuff or whatever. But I've started to watch it. And they show him back there, you know, with his wife and all that stuff. These people coming in the gym. But I need to watch that one, you know. Hey, some of these older movies are good, you know. And hey, with some that are not in color, like somebody up there likes me and all that stuff, hey, it's still pretty solid. You know what I'm saying? You can see past that, but I thought that was a good one. Yeah, Rocky just gave me more of an interest just because I'm like, man, yeah, he was just got into a lot of trouble. It seems like. Mike's like a bulldog, short and thick. Bod says, I'm 6 feet means I can whoop Tyson. Joking, of course, but I am a heavyweight. Hey, let's make it happen there. Bod, let's make it happen. Blue Eyes, Jack Delaney was other boxing with. Hey, I know of Jack Delaney. I need to know more of him for sure. I need to look up more on Jack Delaney. I know you're talking about for sure. But Delaney, yeah, I know him to be a very good fighter. But I want to know more about old Jack Delaney right there. Light heavyweight, right? Or at least where he operated at his best. Chris says, I'm 6'3" and I go down like a sack of taters if Mike hit me. Hey. All of us, I guess you could say. Tunney said that when Slattery took boxing seriously, he was the best ever. Hey, that's big nods right there from Tunney. That is big nods, I will say. Saying that Boz Boxing, Delaney was some puncher. Yes, sir. Dan Buffalo Slattery, yes. Ross, Kanzi, McLaren, Amber, True Kings, Lightweight. Oh, yeah, I had this book next to me. Hey, I got this book recently. I haven't started it yet, but this is a Jack Dempsey book. So I'm going to learn more about Jack Dempsey. So there are probably some things we're going to get out of this book. This is the first of 3, apparently. There's a guy who told me about it on the channel. You see, it's pretty thick. You know what I'm saying? That's why I haven't started it yet, because I'm like, once I crack into this thing, this is a pretty thick book. But this is the first of 3 from Adam J. Pollock. In the Ring with Jack Dempsey, part 1, The Making of a Champion, and the part 3 came out last year in July. So this one came out, let me see here, 2020, it looks like. So 2020, this is the first book. There's 3 of them. Like I said, this is pretty thick right here. You know what I'm saying? So it's over 500 pages. You know, that's more than I would ideally want to dive into. But, hey, it's worth it for Jack Dempsey. I got to learn more. So once I learn even more, I'm going to go back and make some kind of video. I got some other books here. I just want to show, since I got them right here. This is a comic book on Harry Half. It's like a comic book style book, you know. I thought it was pretty cool. I picked this up last month, I think it was, or a month before, November or December, one of the two. But it's pretty cool. Harry Half, you know, I was speaking of earlier, the boxer. You know, they have a movie out there on him. It's called The Survivor. And this is called The Boxer, the True Holocaust, Story of the Holocaust Survivor, Harry Half. But I haven't started this one yet either. You know, have books and haven't started them. This one from Mark Allen Baker right here. I haven't dove into this one yet. The great Abe Attell right here. The Fighting Times of Abe Attell. This is one I got to get in. I got a Canzonero. I got so many books, man. I can't get into all of them right now. But speaking of that, it's not going to happen it might not happen on that day, but I have a video scheduled live to chat with Mark Allen Baker about the Hoosier Bearcat, Jack Dillon, the Giant Slater. That's going to be a good one right there. Shout out to Mark Allen Baker. That's his latest book that's coming out. I pre-ordered it. I don't think it's fully released yet, or I don't think it's released yet in general, because I haven't received it yet. But once it's out, it's going to be crazy. But he's going to come on. We're going to talk about the great Jack Dillon here at some point. That'll be pretty awesome right there, because Jack Dillon, he doesn't get mentioned a ton. And I know of him. I don't know a ton about him. I know he has a solid resume, and he was in with some top-level competition, great light heavyweight. And he would fight above that, too, if I'm not mistaken. He wasn't a huge guy in that sense, certainly not height-wise. But that being said, hell of a fighter right there. Jack Dillon, the Giant Slayer. So I'm going to get prepped for that for sure. But it might not happen on the 26th, so it'll probably be a little bit after that, as a matter of fact. But shout out to Mark Allen Baker. That's his latest that's on the way. Saul says, some bum saying that Marciano Duck listed in Patterson when listed wasn't even known or a contender in Patterson. There's many also admitted to Duck Rocky. Yeah, I don't think that was going to happen just timing-wise anyway. Yeah, I don't think it was going to happen, as a matter of fact. And Rocky, once he was done, he was done. He didn't come back. You know, some of these boxers say they're retired, sort of like Tyson Fury. He said he's retired again, but do we think he's really retired? But Rocky was dealing with some back issues, I think, or something of that nature. But yeah, I don't think timing would have worked for any of those fights, as a matter of fact, anyway. So yeah, it wasn't a duck. So yeah, interesting stuff. Graziano was wild, but if he landed that right, you were out. Oh, certainly. Let's see. Joshua, oh yeah, Rocky Mountain died in a plane crash in '69. I just saw the '70 biopic on the right. Oh, I had heard about that. I haven't seen it though. Way better than I heard about the 1999 film for sure. Maybe not this '70 one. I had to check that out then. You mentioned that, Joshua. So 1970 biopic. I heard about the 1999 one for sure. But yeah, 1970 biopic. Thought it was good, or at least better than the 1999 one. For what it's worth, I guess you could say. Okay, I'll try to check that out for sure. Chris said Jake Paul has that Appalachian face under that beard. Don't be fooled. Got you there for sure. Ovila Chapdelaine was Delaney's real name. French Canadian. Okay, awesome there. Awesome there. Bob Delaney versus Berlenbach. Great boxing right there. Okay, I had to check that out. Jack Delaney, Berlenbach. Who would the kings of the 80s? How would the kings of the 80s do versus the kings of the 30s? Hey, it'd be crazy. We have some amazing fights, I'd imagine. Top level competitions, as a matter of fact, you know. Josh Taylor. Hey, cheers, Josh Taylor. Former world champion right there. No, I'm tripping, but shout out to another Josh out there. Appreciate you dropping by. Should watch Champion of Auschwitz with Teddy Priechowski. I don't know if I said it right. I've seen that. Well, I haven't seen it, but I've seen the thing showing on Netflix. I thought about watching it. At first, when I saw it, I thought it was like a different version of the Harry Half movie, but then I read that it was a different fighter right there. I'm going to check that out, Josh Taylor. I know exactly what you're talking about. It is on Netflix right now. I considered watching it. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm going to watch that, Josh Taylor, and I'll definitely talk about it once I do, for sure. That's one to check out as well, folks. It is on Netflix, but I didn't know of this guy. I didn't know of him, but I have seen that, and I looked him up. Well, I just looked up Wikipedia thing, so I haven't dove into his career or anything, but thought that's pretty amazing. You know, crazy. Think about that, being in Auschwitz and then going on to have a career, all that stuff, or say you had one beforehand, whatever it may be. I'm thinking about Harry Half, but I'll have to check that one out there, Josh Taylor. Good suggestion. Didn't you let a long life? So 500 pages does not at all. Yeah, certainly. As I mentioned there, Joshua, there are 3 parts. I'm guessing the other ones are probably pretty thick right there as well. So I'm gonna be looking forward to it. I got a Tony Canzaneri book as well. Mark Allen Baker did. Gotta watch that. Have a Johnny Kilbane book. I'd almost finished. I gotta find it. I went on a trip, and I know I had it in my backpack. I was reading it on a plane. But I haven't been able to locate it since I got back. This was a few months ago. Well, more than a few, I guess you could say now. But Johnny Kilbane, I need to do something on him. We've talked about him, Mark and I, but amazing fighter right there as well. Longest reigning featherweight champion. Longest reigning. Oh, in the 30s, Gene Tunney got his own comic book. Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. You know, I want that Ali versus Superman or whatever comic book as well. I want that one. I'm going to get it at some point. Non-Pareil. You talk about non-Pareil, Jack Dempsey there, Chris. Born in Ireland. Yeah, non-Pareil, Jack Dempsey. Oh, yeah, one of the great middleweights, just boxers in general, but one of the great middleweights for sure that the sport has seen, but one of the great boxers in general. First world middleweight champion, as a matter of fact, non-Pareil, Jack Dempsey. I want to do a longer, deeper video on him, man. Amazing fighter right there. And he died at a fairly young age, too, 32, 33 or something like that, because he had tuberculosis. Just think about that. And it wasn't his first stint. So he was fighting and battling through tuberculosis. He had it on multiple occasions. Just think about that. Some of these guys back then, man, some tough stuff they had to deal with. Some very tough stuff. Hey, I agree with you, Dan. Marciano Dempsey could go either way. I definitely got to do some more reading. Hey, I'm with you there. Define irony. I definitely have to do some of the same myself here. So many to catch up on. Alistair, Jack Dillon, great fighter and Greb victim. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was in there with Harry Greb. Greb, amazing. The resume of Greb is a thing of legends. Just think about that. It's a thing of legends for sure. Let's see here. Marciano spoke Italian well. Oh, that's awesome. Josh says Tyson Fury, the comeback kid. Oh yes, I'm pretty sure he will be back. He's retired. This is like his third or fourth time retiring. Teaspoon Fury. So Marciano was champion and getting ready to retire when Liston was just starting career mid-50s. Yeah. Marciano went 49-0. Hey, something special right there. Marciano, a special fighter. The way he trained and what went into it, man, just that relentlessness, that determination, can't take that away from him, man. It's just like, even when you thought it was out, when some of these guys had an opportunity, thought they had him beat, didn't happen. Marciano offered to manage Liston. Good for both. It didn't happen. Huh? Hey, we got you there. Got you there. Something tells me it wouldn't have ended well. Joshua, the 1970s biofilm was on the level of Dempsey's 1983 film. I hate to call it this, but they are really death films. Okay, gotcha. All right, yeah. Because that Dempsey one, yeah, it was certainly, I felt, and I just watched it. It wasn't too memorable. It was less about the fighting, I guess. That's probably why. But that being said, yeah, one of those for sure. We need an updated new age Dempsey film for sure. Boxing Edge Charles, I believe it was, who learned Italian. There was a broadcast of him and Rocky exchanging a few words in Italian. Oh, interesting. That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool right there. Shout out to Ernest right there. Salute to you there, Ernest. Thanks for dropping by there, buddy. Check out Poppy Tune Yayo Boxing. See him on the Tim and Tim show. Salute there, Ernest. Heavy on the Poppy, light on the Yayo. Yeah, that is how it goes right there. Joshua says Jack Dempsey died in 1895 and the new Jack Dempsey was born. Yeah, crazy, right? Crazy. Don't forget that first Jack Dempsey, born in Ireland. Something Kelly, William Kelly, or what's his name? Something Kelly, right? It was huge in Ireland. That TB. Oh yes, I can imagine. Then Jack Dillon was one of the all-time greatest. Certainly. Josh Taylor, what are your thoughts on Joe Chowinski and the Jack Johnson fight? Hey, I love Joe Chowinski. I want to do a deeper, longer video on Joe Chowinski, one of the great fighters for sure. The great light heavyweight, would-be light heavyweight world champion. He came a little bit before, it was established as the championship, but Joe Chowinski, no doubt, one of the greatest fighters that the sport has seen. You know what I'm saying? We have a little bit of footage of him training there with Jack or Jim Jeffries. I think Joe Chowinski, hell of a fighter right there. One of the best light heavyweights the sport has seen there. Josh Taylor taught Jack Johnson a lesson there when they fought, knocked out Jack Johnson. And Johnson learned from this. He even taught him some things that they were locked up there together for around 30 days or something of that nature. And they would get to spar and all that stuff. That's why you'll see a good number of pictures and things out there, Jack Johnson and Joe Chowinski. And I think that, it was just sort of a lesson for Jack Johnson. And Jack Johnson, he was, when he was younger, very much a more offensive fighter, or earlier in his career. He transitioned to being more of a defensive fighter, which is what we saw most of him on film, being more of a defensive fighter. Some of that probably came from some of the teachings of Joe Chowinski during their time. Certainly, I think also what might have fed into it was Denver Ed Martin, who taught him some things as well. But that being said, man, Joe Chowinski, top-notch fighter right there. Deserves more mention. One of the great light heavyweights. He was in there with some top-level competition, fought freaking James J. Corbett on a barge. That's in that Corbett movie, which is pretty cool right there. But Joe Chowinski, and, he would fight in freaking skin-tight gloves. These guys, hey, they were different back then, man. They were different. Chowinski's the beast right there, Josh Taylor. Absolute beast. Shout out to my man Greg Sanders right there. JDV Fernandez, you're still holding down. Respect, big dog. Semper Fi, my fellow Marine right there. Greg Sanders, salute to you there. Greg, M-A-D right there. That's what I'm going. Motivated, ambitious, and driven. Shout out to you. Good to hear from you there, buddy. Semper Fi to you. So said Joe Chowinski was so game. He had good ass footwork at the jab in the Jeffrey sparring. Yes. Thankfully, we have that little bit of footage, man. But Joe Chowinski, I think, very underrated fighter right there in terms of just thinking about guys who, if you ask someone to make a list of the great light heavyweights, oftentimes I'd imagine he wouldn't pop up on it, but he should be there. He was a very, very, very good fighter, and deserves more mention. As I stated, I want to do something a little bit deeper on my man Joe Chowinski, but a hell of a fighter for sure. Paul Bright says, I thought Fury Joshua was close to being signed. I saw something about that as well. That might end up being something that happens. That's why I think Fury is not done. Boz Boxing said, look, we have a former world champ here. LOL, I assume that's not the Josh Taylor. The Josh Taylor. Hey, could be. Yes, sir. That's what I'm talking about there, Ernest. Joshua says, we got good film of Chowinski with Jeffries for the Johnson fight. Yes. You get to see that footwork too. You get to see him. He just there bouncing on his feet. And it reminds you of what we see here with some of these guys in the modern times as well. You think about some of the amateur guys and their footwork and all that stuff. Think about Usyk and stuff and how he bounces on his feet. That's what you're seeing from Joe Chowinski. That tells you something right there. Sad that his chin wasn't that good. He fought some of the biggest punchers ever. Certainly, but it made Jack Johnson 100% better fighter. Indeed, there, Josh Taylor. Indeed, it did right there. Indeed, Joshua, both Chowinski and Johnson shared a cell. Well, crazy to think today two of the top fighters getting locked up after a big fight, like locking up Ali and Frazier after the first fight. Yeah, crazy. Yeah, you saw some of that back then. You think about some of those great fights in the past and things of that nature happening. Think about freaking John L. Sullivan when he fought who am I thinking of in particular? Jake Kilrain, and the aftermath of that. Well, he had got in trouble for the Patty Ryan fight as well, but when he fought Jake Kilrain and what came in the aftermath of that as well is like they weren't messing around, man. Boxing has had to work its way there, to get to the point of that. Think about you think about the implications of Terry McGovern versus Joe Gans in that fight that was seemingly fixed and ruled to be fixed, but it banned boxing in Chicago or I guess Illinois in general, but 26 years or somewhere in there, something crazy like that. Let's think about that. It's crazy. All right, there, Boz says, okay, guys, have a good night. Take care. I'm out of here. All right, there, Boz. Appreciate you there, buddy. Get back with you. It's Spania. Hey, it's Flat. Usually only use this channel for Italian cut there. Hey, salute to you there, Flat. Be sure to go check out Flat Boxing, FLAK, Flat Boxing. Hey, we got some good little content over there. Got to post more, but check out Flat. Appreciate you dropping by there, buddy. So check out his other channel there. But hey, appreciate you there. We're talking about some Jack Dempsey, and we've gotten into so many other boxers out there. But yeah, see you there. Cheers there, Flat. Joshua says, I think Sullivan got locked up in the Kilrain fight. Yeah, they eventually caught him, hopped on it. Well, both of them dipped out immediately afterwards, but both of them ended up getting caught. But Sullivan got the brunt of the issues associated with it, and he ended up bailing out and not showing back up. Had he shown back up, he'd have been arrested. But some of that stemmed from the governor, I think it was Governor Lowry down in Mississippi. And, he had it out for Sullivan, and they weren't messing around either. So Sullivan got a little bit lucky there for sure. Josh Taylor said 1948 flyweight champion Rinty Monaghan. What are your thoughts on this? Go. Yeah, I don't know him there, Josh Taylor. So 1948 flyweight. Yeah, I have to look him up. Yeah, I don't know him. But, hey, I'll take your word for it there, Taylor. Yeah, that's something I would have to dive into, especially around the flyweight ranks in 1948. So, let me see. I'm going to take his name down there. It's Rinty Monaghan. Rinty Monaghan. Okay, I see him here. Yeah, I don't know him, so he's from Belfast. Okay. Got an Irish boxer right here. I have to check him out. Hey, I don't know everybody. Certainly don't know everybody, but I'm going to check him out there. Josh, good stuff right there. Rinty. Some of you may know Rinty. Dan says Jesse James on the run for the law was at Kilrain Sullivan. Oh, yeah. Crazy. Think about that, right? Crazy. Went through Missouri, Arkansas, down to Mississippi from indications, or at least what I've seen. All right there, Boz. Joshua says, I think McGovern just caught Gans, and the lack of neutral corner rule gave Terry the edge. Terry was the Mike Tyson of the lighter weights. Yep, he was coming up from featherweight at that particular time. Hey, could have been the case there, Joshua. I don't know. Could have been the case. But the law enforcement seemed to think it was a little bit different. Still, it hurt the sport. Yeah, certainly. Um, Saul says Tunney got tons of advice from Corbin in the Dempsey fight. Sullivan should have stepped in and coached Dempsey. It would have been cool as hell. That would have been crazy right there. That would have been crazy. Yeah, we got some video out there of Tunney training with Corbett, which is pretty cool to see, thinking about those different eras, legends of different eras right there working together. So Sullivan was more tricky and game than we thought. Some people say he was just a brawler. Yeah, I think so as well. He knew about feigning, a number of other things. He had different trainers and all that stuff he worked with. Of course, when he had his bare knuckle contest, he was working with wrestlers like William Muldoon. But there was some from even prior to that. So, yeah, he had some wrinkles to his game, I think, that are a little bit more than what meets the eye exactly. Dan didn't look fixed at all, smashing Gans in the head. A lot of fixed fights. All right, there, Dan. Hey, it might not have been. It may not have been. It may not have been, to be honest with you. I don't know. Christopher, your lines are good, bro. Stay on the long. You stay on long enough to attract an audience. Hey, appreciate you there, Christopher. Appreciate you there for sure, buddy. Appreciate you dropping by. Everyone that's dropped by. Shout out to Jack Dempsey. Joshua, yeah, Jesse was at the Kilroy Sullivan fight. Crazy to think that it was one of the era's most wanted men were there. Yeah. There was a playwright, too, right there. English playwright or something like that. Josh, there's a YouTube video of Renty's ballet. It's very impressive. Okay. I'm going to check it out. Josh Taylor, definitely. Hey, next time I catch you in or something like that, hey, I'll talk about it for sure. But I don't know him. I'm going to check him out. So 1948 flyweight. Most other pages come on for 15 minutes once a week and expect to build an audience. Oh, yeah. Hey, appreciate it. Hey, I want to do more. I'm going to try to do more. I can spot fake fights a mile away. A lot of them in history, Dan. Yeah, hey, Dan. No, there's some. Hey, I don't know. I'm not saying it can't be good. Couldn't have been, but hey, might have been there, Dan. Hey, people, check out McGovern versus Gans. Hey, let us know what you think right there. But it might have been there, Dan. I don't know. Was the fix in that, or was it not? It could have. Hey, those punches were legitimately landing. I will say that, Dan. They were legitimately landing. And as great as Joe Gans was, my top lightweight champion, or my top lightweight in history, period. Him and Benny Leonard, of course. And then 3 for me would be Ike Williams, believe it or not. Then I would go Durant. But that being said, Gans, hey, sometimes he could not be focused or not take things serious in some fights. I will say that. Is the case. Middleweight champ I enjoy was Jake LaMotta, another tough fighter. Oh, yes, did a live on him not too long ago. Yeah, LaMotta was a beast right there. As mentioned, I watched Raging Bull for the first time last year. Thought it was a damn good movie. Good acting, all that stuff. So you can see why it was nominated and why it's held in high regards for sure there. But Jake LaMotta, man, probably as tough as they come. Think about some of the toughest fighters, just bar none, period. And the fact that even at an older age, hey, he maintained his health, at least he speak all that good stuff. Shows you how, man, it's so different. Genetics, I guess you can say. It's crazy how that is. Hispania, remember those 2 7-hour streams we did last year? Oh, yeah, that was crazy. Those were crazy right there. Oh, so, yeah, Flack. Yeah, we did some crazy streams that went freaking forever. Probably those records will stand right there. Man, I was only going to do this one for an hour, so I got to get up out of here. As a matter of fact, oh, yeah, Bruce is going to be on with Doug Fisher, so I'm probably going to have to get out of here, folks. So definitely go check out Bruce Gas, Boxing, Jazz, and More. He's going to be on with Doug Fisher of the Ring Magazine, so it's probably worth checking out for you all. Because Doug Fisher, hey, he knows some boxing history stuff right there. Josh Taylor, Oscar Battling Nelson was a beast for sure. Mark Allen Baker has a book on him. Battling Nelson. Hey, check out the Packy McFarland video I did. We talk about Battling Nelson in there, but he was a beast, no doubt about it. And hey, he reached a high level of fame as well. He was a good guy or a good fighter for sure. So Battling Nelson right there. Hey, wow dude as well. Joshua, I have Leonard, Duran, Armstrong, Ross, Ike Williams. Okay, hey, you really can't go wrong there. Can't go wrong there, Joshua. So another barometer matchup would have been Dempsey versus Jeffrey. It was a damn endurance monster, according to Nietzsche. He fought like a lot like Marciano, but bigger and tougher. Yeah, it's crazy. I did that little hypothetical on the channel here the other day, right there. So that would have been an interesting one for sure. But man, thanks everyone that dropped by. Benny Leonard, Gans, Grello, Ike Williams, Best Lightweight, plus Canzaneri, man. What can I got to read that book on Canzaneri, but man, Canzaneri, absolute beast, starting at a young age and all that stuff too. Mr. Decker, God bless you, brother. Always tight work. It was a pleasure speaking with everyone here. Have a great week and stay safe. Keep the jazz going. Indeed, Mr. Deco 86. Hey, appreciate you there, buddy. Hey, I appreciate everyone that dropped by. Of course, we could go all day. In the lightweight goat, Tank Davis, I got you there, so you are funny. You are funny. Good day to you as well, Josh. Good day to everyone. Hey, appreciate y'all. Hey, we're gonna try and do another one of these here soon. But go check out Bruce Gas, Boxing Jazz, and more. He's got Dougie Fisher, the Ring magazine on. That's what he mentioned. So I'm gonna check that out myself, though. So see you there. Hey, be safe, you as well. Everyone, be safe. And we're gonna talk more boxing history here soon. So cheers, folks. Cheers. Yeah.